Okay, so we have had a very depressing time last time with the gullus of the 10 tribes, a historical tragedy that has not ever been resolved. And 10 tribes, we still don't know what most of them are. We did say that the members of the 10 tribes came to join Yehuda. They weren't all exiled, so that somewhere there are members of each tribe, and they're not completely lost. However, the main tribes that survived were Yehuda, Binyamin, and of course Levi. Okay, so as we've been doing, we're going to switch now from the 10 tribes to the southern kingdom. And because the northern kingdom is basically done, we are not going to switch back. So we're up to chapter 18 in Melachim Bet, and we'll go right away to the screen share. Okay. Now, if you notice here, we have a few short sections in chapter 18. So it's a longest chapter, and it basically tells the beginning of the story of Chizkiyahu. So we have moved from the absolute nadir, the sad exile, the 10 tribes, and now we're going to be going to a very upbeat part of the of Jewish history, and that is King Chizkiyahu, who is one of our greatest kings ever, and it's the Navi seems to really relish talking about him. I'll show you in a minute what I mean. You see here, if you look at this section, we have a few parts here. It's a long Perek, and the first 16 psukim have a few different inyanim, but from 17 on, it's all like one story, and that's what they call in Israel a sipur b'hem shechim. It's just the beginning of the story, and the rest of the story we'll get in chapter 19. But the first three sections, the first Perek you see, obviously the first part of this Perek, the first 8 psukim, it's all a great praise of Chizkiyahu because he's just wonderful and we love him. And then we get from Tet Yud Bet a short recap of the 10 tribes exile. And then we start the story of Chizkiyahu and Sancheriv, and a little bit about how he tries to work with that. And then from 17 to 37, it's a long Perek, 20 psukim, is the drama. Okay, so without further ado, Perek, go to the beginning, Perek Yudchet. Now, I'll remind you that we had 2 serious downers before we meeting Chizkiyahu. The northern kingdom has gone into exile. We have the sad story of Hoshea ben Elah, who was not so terrible, but he was not able to stop the corruption, and he was not a strong enough leader to take his people back where they should have been. Number one, the northern kingdom suffered from a series of civil wars. One king kills another king and takes over, and this goes on. There's like 50 years of political instability, civil war, and then you have the leadership of Hoshea, which is very mediocre. It's very mediocre. He doesn't. The king Hoshea ben Elah is the example that the Nabi Hosea ben Be'eri, Hosea says, he's like, it's like when you are a baker and you put on the oven on a very hot temperature and you put in the bread and then you walk away. Your bread is going to burn. You can't, you have to act swiftly. And he does it. And his rebellion against Ashur has a very sad ending, and they're all exiled. But the people are the problem more than the king. Because when he takes away the guards that prevents Jewish people from going down south to Yerushalayim, nobody goes. The rot has set in. So that's how the northern kingdom ends off. God is like no longer pleased with them, and they're exiled to Assyria, and that's it. Now, Chizkiyahu comes on the scene, and the southern kingdom has been really abused by Chizkiyahu's father, Ahaz, and he has done some terrible things. He's probably one of the worst kings of the southern kingdom. He's so anti-God that he has totally disgraced the Beis Hamikdash. He's brought in Avodah Zarah. He's taken apart things that the Shlomo Melech made, like the Yam of Shlomo in the courtyard. It's basically bent on showing everybody that he couldn't care less. That's what he does. He stops people from learning Torah. He closes the Batei Midrash. In general, he is a bad guy. And he puts himself under the authority of Ashur. He's very scared, and he says to the king of Ashur, I am your son, I am your servant. And so he's basically a serious loser. Pasuk Aleph. In the third year of Hoshea ben Elah, the king of Israel, that's the last king of Israel, Chizkiyahu, the son of Ahaz, becomes king in Yehuda. Pasuk Bet. He was 25 when he became king, and he ruled for 29 years. A nice, long period of time. The Shem Mimo Avi Bat Zachariah. I find that interesting because Avi is usually a boy's name. But according to Chazal, this is Zachariah the Navi. It seems odd chronologically, but when you're told the name of the mother, it usually means she's a righteous person. Now, there begins a series of psukim which praise Chizkiyahu in ways that we haven't seen before. He did what was straight in the eyes of God in all that his forefather David did. Pasuk Dalet. Hu heisir et habamot. Okay, let's stop here. I think I've mentioned to you many times the bamot. Bama, from the same root as bima, the high place, and these were altars that were intended to serve Hashem. They were not intended for idolatry. They were allowed to be built before the Beis Hamikdash was built. That is after Shiloh was destroyed, before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. This was mutar. But once the Beis Hamikdash was built, that was supposed to be the place of central worship. However, there was some sort of, it's not like altars for Avodah Zarah. There was some sort of holiness attached to these bamot because they were intended for God. And every single king up until Chizkiyahu, we're told he was a good guy. I mean, not every single one, but the good guys. The good guys, let's say, Shaphat, Asa, Uziel, Yotam, nobody got rid of the bamot. So the fact that Chizkiyahu comes in and he right away starts a program of religious revival, and there will not be anything in his kingdom which resembles Avodah Zarah. So he is the one, finally, to remove the Bamot. And notice the word Hasir. He does not destroy them. We don't know what he did with them. He removed them. They're no longer to be used. This is a milestone in serving God, right? It's a milestone. He moves them respectfully. Goodbye. Vishibarat HaMasevot. And he smashes the monuments, the altars for Avodah Zarah, the Karatata Asherah, the Asherah tree worship. He cuts those things down. The Kitat Nachash and Nechoshet Asherah Samoshe. Now, the Nachash and Nechoshet, I wanted to open that here, I forgot. In Bamidbar, in Chafalef, the Jewish people sin, they complain to God, and a plague strikes them, and they're bitten by snakes. And Moshe Rabbeinu sets up a copper snake for them to look at. And the idea is that if you look up at the copper snake, you're looking up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this person is healed, and this stops the plague. So that copper snake remained as an artifact, as a holy thing, because it was from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Unfortunately, as it says in the pasuk, Ki ad hayamim hahema hayu b'nei makachim lo. Until this time, the children of Israel began to worship the copper snake. This was meant as a memorial to Moshe Rabbeinu's asking God to save the people from the plague. But, we see a similar thing with Gideon. He sets up this golden fleece with the booty from the Midianites, and eventually they make that into Avodah Zarah. In a time of Avodah Zarah, all these artifacts are dangerous. And even though this is from Moshe Rabbeinu, that, of course, we're going to see that that's a guiding light in Chizkiyahu's life, it's not deterred. He smashes it and grinds it up so that it can no longer be used. And he called it Vayikralo Nehushtan. Nehushtan is the Radak calls us a derisive, dismissive nickname, the little snake. It doesn't want anyone worshiping anything but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Gets rid of the Bamot, gets rid of the Avodah Zarah, gets rid of the Asherah trees, gets rid of that copper snake that was becoming a piece of worship. You see the pattern, and he does it immediately, Pasuk, as soon as he becomes king. He does not let one moment go by. He is a great leader, and he doesn't allow anything to deter him from his path. Pasuk, B'Hashem Elokei Yisrael Batach. He trusted in God, and the trust, the bitachon of Chizkiyahu is his greatest midah. We will see how this plays out. He has absolute perfect faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is an amazing thing. And it's even more amazing when you think that he came from a father whose whole life was an attempt to put God down and to take God out of his life. And so he's the son of a Rasha. We spoke about this, I think, last week's Haftorah. The Haftorah by Yishlach, which is Obadiah. The Chazal say Obadiah was the steward, the head of the household of Achab and Izebel, and he was Yarei Elokim Od. Even though he worked in the house of two evil people, he was very God-fearing. And he was the one to prophesy against the children of Edom, of Esav, who grew up in a household with two great tzaddikim as parents, and it became a Rasha, which is definitely something to take away from this. The Chizkiyahu became this unbelievably perfectly righteous person, even though his father was an out-and-out Rasha. And that's a really important thing to think about. And now the the Navi seems to just love Chizkiyahu, because we go on now with more praises. Acharab lo haya kamohu b'chol malchei Yehuda v'asher hayu lefanav. There was no one that came after him or before him who was as great as he was. This particular pasuk is controversial because, wait a minute, there were some very great people in the kings before. So basically, it breaks down into two parts. Like the Radak says, well, we're not talking about David and Shlomo. And if you want to analyze it, they weren't actually Malchei Yehuda. They were before the splitting of the kingdom. So they are greater than Chizkiyahu. But then you also see the Ralbag and the Abarbanel who say, no, actually Chizkiyahu was greater than David and Shlomo, which is quite a startling conclusion. But, the fact that he did not have major sins on his plate was in his favor. So you see that we're starting to look at Chizkiyahu as a figure that's absolutely monumentally great. Pasuk Vav, Vayidbak b'Hashem lo sameh acharav. He clung to God. He did not turn away from God. Vayishmor mitzvosav asher tzivash ben Moshe, and he kept all the mitzvot of Moshe. Remember, he is an advocate for God and for the mitzvot of Moshe, even though he follows Moshe. He destroyed his little snake because it was an object of idolatry. Pasuk Zayin, V'haya Hashem imo, v'chol asher yitzeh yaskil. And because of his great faith in God, he was rewarded with great success from God. And the Sfas Emes says, the greater your faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the greater your support will be from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is like a win-win. A win-win. You trust in God, and God will take care of you. The more you trust in the God, the more he will take care of you. And this is a really important conclusion. Beautiful Sfat Emes. Baruch HaGever, Asher Yiftach B'Hashem. It says in Yirmiyahu, V'haya Hashem Yiftacho. The man who is Boteach Hashem is blessed, right? V'haya Hashem Yiftacho. What's the blessing? Hashem will be the one he can rely on. And that is the more you have faith in God, the more God will reward that faith. Now, this is a pattern that Chizkiyahu follows, that he now will do everything differently than his father. His father disrespected the Beis HaMikdash. He right away fixed it up. Now, just for a moment, Divrei Yamim. Chizkiyahu, there's several chapters about Chizkiyahu and Divrei Yamim, although we do get a lot about Chizkiyahu in Melachim. Generally speaking, we need to get more information from Divrei Yamim, from Chronicles. But I'll add, in the Chizkiyahu's case, a lot of the stories of Chizkiyahu are also not just in Divrei Yamim, but also in Yeshaya. And the first thing he does, B'shana Rishana L'Molcho, B'chodesh HaRishon, the first year of his leadership, the first month, Patach et Daltot Beit Hashem Echazkeim, he opens up the doors of the Beis HaMikdash and he fixes it up, renovation and renewal, and he gets all the Kohanim and Levim. He says, listen, guys, consecrate yourselves, get yourselves together, get rid of the impurities that are in the Mikdash, because our fathers did evil and they took us away from the Beis HaMikdash. We have to fix that. Now, I don't really have time to go into it today. There's a lot of interesting discussions in the Chazal about Chizkiyahu. One of them is that he actually showed major disrespect to his father. And when his father died, he had him pulled on a bed of ropes and did not have him buried in the burial crypt of the kings, although it says later that Achaz was buried there. So it seems as if he wants everyone to know, I'm nothing like my father. My program is the exact opposite. He disrespected the Beis HaMikdash. I'm putting it back in place. Set up the Kohanim, set up the Leviim, set up the Mishmarot of Kahuna, started the Korbanot again, the sacrifices, the festival of Pesach. He makes a big festival. And he also, and this is also something that we have to talk about Bezrat Hashem next time, he also makes, where his father stopped the teaching of Torah, he opens it up. Everyone must learn Torah. Everyone must go study. Education is critical to the next generations, that they learn Torah. And the Chazal say there wasn't a child in all of Chizkiyahu's kingdom who didn't know complex laws of Tumah and Tara. This is the reformation that he made. And not only that, he did not only against what Achaz did, he did against what Hoshea did. Hoshea's kingdom was full of corruption. People did not want to go down to Yerushalayim. And Chizkiyahu called them, the ones that were left, the remnant. He said, come join us, come to Yerushalayim, be part of our kingdom. He wanted to heal the rifts among the nation. He wanted to move quickly, unlike Hoshea, who was sort of dragging his feet, not getting things done. And his program, he goes right to the people. He says, let's be together. No more civil war. Come and worship Hashem. Let's do this together. So we have here a very, very great person and a wonderful, wonderful leader. Okay, and one of the things, Pasuk Zayim, because Achaz was such a lackey and such a servile, obsequious, he tells the king of Ashur, I'm your son, I'm your servant. Chizkiyahu has to do the exact opposite of his father. He says, no, I'm not doing that. So this is going to bring some trouble. We're going to see that in a minute. He struck the Philistines until Azah, from all the watchtowers till the fortified cities, the enemies that he could put down, he put down. Now, the next section talks about, we go over the Gola Shomron, Pasuk Tet, Vayihi b'shana Rabiyit Lamel Chizkiyahu, Hi hashana shvi'it lo Shem ben Eila Melech Yisrael, Allah Shalmaneser Melech Ashur al Shomron Etzarle. If you recall, there was a 3-year siege against Shomron by the Assyrians. And this is told here, Pasuk Yud, Vayil Keduha Miktei Shalosh Shanim, B'shnat Sheish Chizkiyahu, Hishnat Tei Shalosh Shem Melech Yisrael Nekadosh Shomron. In the 6th year of Chizkiyahu, that was the end of Hoshea's rule, the 9th year of his rule, and the end of the 3-year siege, and Shomron is captured. Pasuk Aleph, Vayegel Melech Ashur Yisrael Ashura Vayanchem Bachlach V'Chabor Nahar Gozan V'Arei Madai. I do believe that I showed you a picture of this. Yes. Okay, all these places that I mentioned here. Okay, Chalach, right? Chabor. Chabor. Kamish, Nahar Gozan. Here's Chabor. Chabor, Arei Madai. The people of the 10 tribes are exiled to all these places. And we are being warned about that again. Pasuk Yud Bet, conclusion of a Navi. Al shalo shamu b'kol Hashem Elokehem. They didn't listen to the voice of Hashem, their God. Vayavu et briso. They transgressed his covenant. It kol shetziva Moshe Eved Hashem. All like Moshe, the servant of God, had commanded v'lo shamu v'lo asu. So we ask, what is this doing here? We spent a lot of sad psukim on this sad story. Why is it here? And the Barbanel answers, he says, we are being given a tremendous contrast. The 10 tribes did not follow Moshe's laws. They did not follow Hashem. They transgressed the covenant. They didn't listen to God. And this is their sad and sorry end. They're exiled all over the place. But in the time of Chizkiyahu, the southern kingdom is unparalleled, return to God, and this is where we see the contrast. And because of the righteousness of Hiskiyahu, they will be saved by a miracle. But we're not up to that yet. Yud Gimel. Spoiler alert. In the 14th year of the king Chizkiyahu, Sancherib, the king of Ashur, came up against all the cities of Yehuda, the fortified ones, and he captured them. And this is a very sad story here. All of these cities fall victim to Ashur. And Chizkiyahu's first action to try to stop this is to try to bribe them. Now Lachish, if you saw in this map, Lachish is right southwest of Yerushalayim, and it is in that area. That was the most powerful city of Yehuda, and its capture by the king of Ashur is described in a stone relief that the king of Assyria set up. And I am going to show you a little 2-minute video about this, which I hope you can see it. I hope you can hear it. Can you see it, everybody? Give you a sense of the fearsomeness of
in the year 701 BCE, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, led a vast army against the kingdom of Judea. King Hezekiah, who rebelled against the Assyrian Empire, now confronted the world's greatest war machine. The Assyrian army was powerful and extremely well organized. It was composed of a hierarchy of officers, professional soldiers, and specialized forces, cavalry, archers, infantry, and engineering corps. Upon its arrival, 46 fortified cities fell one after the other. The revolt's suppression reached its climax with the conquest of Lachish, the second most important city in the Judean kingdom. In his prophecies, the prophet Isaiah warns, "Now therefore, behold, the Lord brings upon them the waters of the river, strong and many, the king of Assyria in all his glory, and it will rise over all its channels and go over all its banks. And it shall pass through Judah, it shall overflow and go over, it shall reach even to the neck." Sennacherib boasts of his successes in war, and especially of the conquest of Lachish. He orders the carving of a 12-meter-long relief depicting the city's conquest. The relief panels were displayed in Sennacherib's palace in Nineveh and were only uncovered 2,700 years later. They are currently exhibited at the British Museum in London. The relief accurately portrays the operation of the Assyrian war machine, from the Battle of Lachish to the parade of war captives in front of Sennacherib's throne. Depicted in the panels are huge siege machines that enable the army to break into the besieged city, as well as sophisticated battering rams, deadly stone slings, skilled archers, and more. They also depict psychological war tactics employed by the Assyrians to dishearten the Jewish warriors, such as displaying captives impaled on wooden spikes, skinning of live prisoners, and other horrific forms of torture. Despite all of these, the residents of Lachish fight valiantly. They are shown throwing flaming torches, chariot wheels, and anything they could lay their hands on at the heads of the Assyrian soldiers. Their efforts are to no avail, and the residents of Lachish that survived, mainly women and children, and all the spoils of war that were plundered, were exiled and forced to march humiliated before King Sennacherib as he sat reviewing them on his throne. In the relief above Sennacherib's head There is an Akkadian inscription explicitly referring to the conquered city of Lachish. Sennacherib, king of the universe, king of Assyria, sits on a throne, and the spoils of Lachish are paraded before him. Now that Lachish has fallen, the Assyrian army marches onward to Hezekiah's city, Jerusalem, capital of Judea.
Anyway, I did want to give you a sense of it because they were a fearsome enemy, terrifying, and they were not gentle with their victims. And besides the exile, there was terrible torture and murder of prisoners. So the empire of Sanherib coming against Chizkiyahu is a very frightening thing. Now, Hashem has told Chizkiyahu through the Navi Yeshaya that he will take care of him. But you must understand this terrible, frightening threat. Pasuk Yudalid. So Chizkiyahu's first line of defense is to try to bribe them, right? Sorry, I sinned. Shuv me'alai, leave me alone. I will do whatever you want. Just give me a price and I'll pay it. He asked him for 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. He takes all the gold and all the treasure from the house of Hashem and from his own house. The order here is a little bit disturbing. He should have taken first his own and then from the Beit Hashem. But it's still very tragic. He's just started off, you see, the first thing he does is to renew the Beis Hamikdash, and now he has to take it apart. At that time, in order to meet the price that the king of Ashur had said, he had to scrape the gold off the doors and the thresholds in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, that is not the end of it. So, a person like Sanherib is not satisfied with the money. Now he wants to make war. Pasuk Yudzayin. Vaishlach melech Ashur et Tartan bet Rav Sarit bet Rav Shakeh min Lachish HaMelech Chizkiyahu b'chel kabed Yushalayim. Now he sends 3 messengers, Tartan, Rav Saris, and Rav Shakeh. However, we will only be hearing from Rav Shakeh. And the Chazal say, the Seder Olam suggests that the other 2 came later. We're not sure. In any event, they send a Chel Kabed, a tremendous army against Yerushalayim. Don't make any mistake. This is not a, let's kiss and make up situation. Vaya'alu vayavo Yerushalayim, vaya'alu vayavo vayamdu b'talat ha'brecha elyona asher b'mesilat sde koves. They stood on the channel of the upper pool, which is at the path where the launderers came, the field of the launderers. So apparently there were some places where there were these kind of lakes, a reservoir of water collected. And when the people of Yerushalayim needed water, they would open it up and let it go into the pool, and they would launder their clothes and let them dry there. So this was a place near the city where people who wanted to make speeches would stand so that people could hear them within and without of the city. That's Yudchet. They called the king. Now this is a real chutzpah. Chizkiyahu is not like, a little boy, come here, sonny. So he sends messages. Vayetzelem Eliakim ben Chilkiyahu, Asher al Habayit, B'Shemna Sofer, V'Yoach ben Asap HaMazkir. Sends 3 high-ranking individuals, Eliakim, the son of Chilkiyahu, And he is Alabayit. He is like the number one in charge of the king's household. Shevna is a scribe, and Yoach, the son of Asaph, is a secretary who keeps the chronicles. Now, the speech of Rav Shakeh is a classic of oratory. It's told over again in Divrei Yamim and in Yeshaya, which tells you how important it is. And Rav Shakeh, I'm gonna point out different things that he says that are, this is like the classic form of psychological warfare. He is going to take down Chizkiyahu in every possible way that he can and try to convince him to surrender. That's a good text. Vayomer lehem Rav Shakeh, Imrun al Chizkiyahu, Ko amar HaMelech HaGadol, Melech Ashur, Ma bitachon hazeh asher batachta. So number one, Chizkiyahu is just Chizkiyahu. The king of Ashur is HaMelech HaGadol, Melech Ashur. That's step one. Let's take you down, call you a nothing and a nobody, and call my king the big guy. Okay? Pasuk Chaf. Amarta. I'm sorry. Ma bitachon hazeh asher batachta. This is the question that it's interesting because Rav Shakeh is putting his finger on the very midah that makes Chizkiyahu who he is. Chizkiyahu is a great mammon. We talked about it. He trusts God. So Rav Shakeh, the first thing is, what do you have so much faith for? Amarta achvar svatayim. You said, just a matter of words, a matter of the lips. Eitza gvul milchama, and I will have counsel and bravery for war. Atal mi batachta ki marata bi. Who do you have faith in that you rebelled against me? Now he's speaking as a mouthpiece for Sancheriv. So when he says I, he means Sancheriv. And he is saying, you have a chutzpah to rebel against the king of Ashur. Who do you think you're trusting? So first of all, the first thing we have to note is that he's degrading Chizkiyahu's rank by calling him Chizkiyahu as opposed to the king of Ashur, the great king. Secondly, he's saying, Achdabar Svatayim, words that the Radak says, this is a reference to tefillah. You think you can win us with words? You think you can pray to your God and he'll save you? What are you trusting in? But the thing that he thinks, and this shows you how this man's mind works, he says, he thinks that Chizkiyahu is depending on Egypt because the Hoshea ben Elah, if you recall in chapter 16, I believe, Hoshea ben Elah calls to So, the king of Egypt. Remember, I really had a little bit of a thing with King So. I find that a very funny name. It's like Chinese or something, King So. Anyway, because Hoshea ben Elah thought that Egypt would help him, Rav Shakeh thinks that Chizkiyahu is making the same calculation. Right? And he says, Ata chafal, hine batachtel chal mishenet hakaner watzutz hazeh al Mitzrayim, asher yisamech ish alav u'ba b'kapo nikava, kein paro melech Mitzrayim l'chol habotchim alav. This is an extremely famous metaphor. A kaneh is a reed. Now, it's a ratzutz, it's a bent, a broken reed, and a mishenet is something that you lean on. Lisha'ain is to lean on. So you're making yourself lean on a broken reed. Now, if you lean on a broken reed, it will snap, and the pieces will pierce your skin and cut you. So this is a metaphor for completely unreliable support. And this is what Egypt is called, not only here, but in many other places. It became an expression that's used till today, mishenet kaneh ratzutz, leaning on a broken reed, which not only will not support you, but will hurt you. Is that what you think you're doing? Rav Shakeh says, you think Egypt's going to help you against us? Now, this actually isn't who Chizkiyahu believes in. Chizkiyahu's trust is in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, Rav Shakeh has a certain amount of knowledge here, and watch what happens in Chapell. If you're going to say to me, we trust in Hashem our God, your God is the one who Chizkiyahu removed his bamot. He removed his altars. He seems to be accusing Chizkiyahu of removing the bamot and all the altars that he removed, doing it for his own power, so that everyone has to come to him, so that he will be more important. He said, really? You're saying this to Hashem, where you trusted our God? God is mad at you. God is mad at Chizkiyahu. And here he displays a lack of understanding of what those bamot meant, that Chizkiyahu removed the bamot. That was a good thing. Now, what's interesting, find it for you, Sanhedrin 94. Okay. A lot of stuff about Chizkiyahu here, but I want you to see by Rav Shakeh. Okay, it's later. According to the Chazal, all of the kings of Ashur are the same person. They're all Sancheriv. And okay, this wasn't the one I wanted. Here it is. Oh, Rav Shakeh. Okay, don't want to go into the whole discussion of what the Gemara says here. This is Sanhedrin 60. That was Sanhedrin 94. He says here, Rav Shakeh Yisrael Mumar Haya. I'll explain to you why they say this in a minute. But understand, according to Chazal, Rav Shakeh was a Jew who had gone off the derech, as you would say, and become a tool of the king of Ashur. So this explains his imperfect knowledge of Judaism and his interpretations and the way he's able to use arguments to get under the skin of Chizkiyahu and the people who are hearing, because he knows Judaism well enough to know how to get at them. And he also says, and here Rashi says, Halahu Asher Hisir Chizkiyahu. We learn from here, Rashi says, that Rav Shakeh was a Yisrael Mumar, right? An apostate Jew, Shaya Modeh Shakadosh Baruch Hu Elokah. He says Hashem Elokeinu. He believes that there is Hashem, but he wants to serve Avodah Zarah, and so he doesn't believe in Hashem as the God of gods. Now, I just want to point out that Jews who have gone away from Judaism have been some of our most terrible enemies over the centuries, and nothing has changed today. You see, you can hear Jewish people talking against Jews, talking against Israel, And they will always say, as a Jew, I can tell you, blah, blah, blah. And really, those who destroy us come out from us. It's a very sad thing. And there it is. Anyway. Okay. So he says, you're using words. You're basing yourself on words. You think prayer will help you. You think Egypt will help you. You think God will help you. God is mad at you. And now I'll tell you something else. I'm challenging you. Right? If you make a deal with my master, the king of Asher, I'll give you 2,000 horses. If you would have enough riders for 2,000 horses. And now this is his next, number one, Chizkiyahu, you are having faith in people that will not help you, right? Number two, you're not even a king. Number three, prayer won't help you against us. Number four, God is mad at you because you took away his private altars. Number five, right? Your army is pathetic. If I gave you 2,000 horses, you wouldn't be able to put people on them. They have an enormous army, 185,000. And your army's nothing. Even if I gave you the horses, you wouldn't have people to put on them. Pasuk Chavdalet. How could you even repulse one little captain, a minor captain, right? Every minor captain has 2,000 horses. And you think Egypt's going to give you that? You can't fight us. You can't win us. We're just a much stronger army. And I did show you that short video to give you a sense. They were the most powerful army in the world at the time. They had very sophisticated weapons. They had siege machines to attack walled cities. They're taking them down one by one. And it's all documented. It's a crazy thing that they found the king's palace at Nineveh. And so many of the prophecies of Yonah and especially of Nahum are clearly fulfilled when they found these archaeological things. But you see, this is the power of the world. We're coming against you. What makes you think that you can fight us? You're nobodies. And not only that, and here the psychological warfare, he turns it up a notch. Pasuk Chafei, Ata Hamni Baladeh Hashem Aliti Al Makom Hazeh Lashchita. You think I came here to destroy you without God? Hashem Amari Lai Alei La'aretz Hazot Bashchita. God told me to do this. And here is just one of those unbelievable chutzpahdik things that this man is saying. God is on our side. Now, he is actually quoting Yeshaya, because Yeshaya does say, let me see where it is, right? Yavi Hashem alechem al amcha al beit avicha yamim. This is a prophecy to Achaz, his father. Asher lo bo libiyom sur Ephraim al Yehuda at Melech Ashur. I'm bringing Melech Ashur against you. However, it doesn't say I'm bringing Melech Ashur against you to destroy you. So he adds that own little, lovely bit himself. So he's really a terrible, propagandist. He's using all of the stops, and this is, it's like a horrible thing for them to hear this. And he's saying, God is on our side anyway. God told me to do this. And all of a sudden they answer, they speak up. Could you possibly speak to us in Aramean? We hear you, we understand Aramean. Who just don't speak to us Jewish, in other words, Hebrew. Everybody hears you. Now, this is so naive. I can't even understand them saying that Of course, he's not going to speak in Aramaic. He wants the people to hear. He wants to terrify them. That's part of the whole psychological warfare. What do you mean? Speak Hebrew. And he lets them have it. Adoni, did my master send me to talk to your master and to you? No. Hello, I'm talking to the people in the wall. I'm talking to the Amcha. I want the people to hear why, and this is quite disgusting. You guys are going to eat your own excrement and urine. Now, the parentheses, you can see this is a chet reish, which till today is a not nice expression for excrement, and Shinaim seems to be related to sheten. In other words, you guys, when we come to besiege you, you will be desperate enough to eat your own stuff. And he says it loudly for the Jews to hear. He wants to frighten them. And now he's shouting even louder in Hebrew. Listen to the words of the great king of Asher. Right? This is what the king says. Don't let Chizkiyahu talk you into anything. He will not be able to save you from the king of Asher. Lamed. But don't let him convince you to trust in God. God will save us. And this city will not be given over to the king of Ashur. You're going to believe that pathetic king of yours? Don't listen to him. This is Lamed Aleph. And now, instead of giving the threats and the this, and he says you're going to eat your, now he says, but it's all going to be great if you surrender. This is Pasuk Lamed Aleph. Asuiti bracha, make a deal with me. Make a blessing with me. Come out and greet me. Surrender. Be'ichlu ish gafno ish tenato. Everyone should eat his own, from his own vineyard and from his own fig tree. Ushasu ish meibaro. You all eat drink your own water. You're going to live in absolute prosperity. And he knows, because he is a Jew, an apostate Jew. He knows the language of prosperity that the Tanakh talks about. Ish tachat gafno, ish tachat te'irato. Every man will live under his vine and under his fig tree. The language of contentment and peacefulness. But he's not going to tell them a lie. He says, Lamed Bet, until the time comes when we take you and exile you. But I'm going to take you to a land that's just like yours. Eretz Dagan Mitirosh, Eretz Lechem Ukramim, Eretz Et Yitzhar Dvash. He knows the 7 species of Israel, a land of grains and wines and bread and vineyards and olives and oil and honey. You'll live and you won't die. And the Chazal actually points out that he's smart enough not to say, our land is better than your land. He doesn't say, a land better than Israel, because that would be very disrespectful to Israel. He says, a land like yours. And interestingly enough, he gets brownie points for that, because he does not say anything bad about Israel, although he says terrible things. Don't listen to him when he tries to tell you that God will save you. It's interesting that God rewards people even for refraining from saying something not right. So how much more will God reward us for saying good things. Lamed Bet. I'm sorry, we did Lamed Bet. Lamed Gimel. Hahatzel hitzilu Elohei Goyim Isha Tartzomi Anel Ashur. Did any of the other gods save their lands from the camp of the king of Ashur? Pasuk Lamed Dalet. Aye Elohei Chamat v'Arpad. Aye Elohei Sfarbayim Heina v'Iba Kitzilu et Shamrom Yadi. Where are the gods of all these countries that we conquered? Hamat, Arpad, Sfarbayim, Heina, Iba. And by the way, the northern kingdom, which is you Jews, right? God didn't save them. And here we have to remind ourselves, we know why God didn't save Shomer. Because God was angry at the northern kingdom because they were such sinners. This is not true of the southern kingdom. But he is now making a comparison, God of Israel, to all these idolatrous gods. In any of the lands, did any of the gods of any of these lands save their land from my hand? Will your God, Hashem, save Jerusalem from my hand? Now, this is blasphemous. Okay? The expression in Hebrew for blasphemy is Birkat Hashem. It's a euphemistic saying. In other words, blessing God when that's not what you mean. But it's considered a terrible thing to compare God, our God, Hashem, to any of these idolatrous pagan deities. So you have this, oh my gosh factor, like how dare you? What's a Lamed Vav? V'hecherishu ha'am, v'lo anu oto davar. The people do not answer. They do not say a word. And he's speaking loudly in Hebrew. Everyone should hear. It's going to be paradise if you surrender. Don't think your God can save you any more than any other God. And this is such blasphemy and such a terrible thing. And they could have attacked him just for saying that. But the command of the king, and the text gives the honor of saying the king to Chizkiyahu, even though Rav Shakeh calls him Chizkiyahu. The king said, do not answer. And this is consistent with Mishlei, right? Altan ksil ki ibalto pentishvelo gamata. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, because you will become like him. This is not a case to answer. You can't answer this kind of evil propaganda. We have to think about that a lot. Is it possible to answer the evil propaganda? It's not so simple. Lamed Zayin. Vayabo El Yakim ben Chilkiyahu asher al habayit b'Shebna hasofer b'Yoach ben Asaf hamaskir el Chizkiyahu kru'ei begadim vayagidu lo et divrei Rav Shakeh. So the three messengers that Chizkiyahu sent out come to Chizkiyahu with ripped clothing, and they tell him the words of Rav Shakeh. So the question is, why did they rip their clothing? That's what I started showing you in the Gemara. One who hears a mention of God's name in a blasphemous manner from a Gentile is not obligated to make a tear in his garments. And if you object and say that those who heard the blasphemy of Rav Shakeh made a tear, even though he was a Gentile, that is not correct, as Rav Shakeh was an apostate Jew. So this is where the Chazal say, the fact that they ripped their clothes, they did not rip their clothes in mourning. They ripped their clothes from the horror of hearing the terrible things that he said against the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And they used this as proof that he was a Yehudi, a Yisrael Mumar, they call it. Now, the other discussions of Chizkiyahu in the Gemara, okay, I think we're going to leave it for next time because we're over time. But you do see that here, I want to just show you this. Because they say that Sancheir had many names. And one of the names was Asenapar, which means the great and noble. And why did he get that particular name? Mibnei shelo siper b'gnutza shel Eretz Yisrael, because do not say bad things about Israel. Ad bo'vi v'lakati etchem el eretz katz, I'm taking to a land like your land. Which is such an interesting thing, how careful we must be only to say good things about the land of Israel, only to say good things. And yeah, that is a great lesson for us. And also, when someone is shouting propaganda and evil things, it's best not to answer them, certainly not at that point. Okay, so the rest of the story, you just have to stay tuned, and we'll do it in the next chapter, like what happens after this. It's quite a cliffhanger. Unusual, but there we are. Stop the share. Okay. Now, does anyone have any questions or thoughts? Definitely a very dramatic Perek, and next week, even more drama. Hizkiyahu and Rabshakeh. Classic. And we'll get Yeshaya in next week also.
Thank you very much. Will we have class next week?
Because Hanukkah?
Right.
Good point. As far as I'm concerned,
It's
yes.
fine with me.
But we should check with I'll write it in the chat. I'll also send a link to that interesting little video in the chat.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so but as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna have a class next week because Hanukkah isn't one of those holidays that can't find an hour to learn some Torah. But if everybody says that maybe the kids are home and maybe it's hard, so then maybe we'll move it off to the next week. We'll see. Okay, ladies. All right, there's a lot more to talk about here, and a lot of interesting stuff. However, we're going to stop now. Say good night.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, and enjoy your Hanukkah, Bezrat Hashem. Coming up soon, right after Shabbos. I think, is it Sunday night, the first candle?
Sunday.
Okay, enjoy your Chag. All right, ladies. Kol tov. Bye-bye.